So, starting now, we are going to go and have the first of our sessions, and that is from my colleague Stephen Ball. He will be here for the live Q&A. He's back in the green room at the moment, and unlike a TV green room, he has to provide his own refreshments, and he doesn't have Meryl Streep sitting next to him or anything like that, as far as I'm aware. Maybe he has, but we will be talking to him live in about 48 minutes. So keeping data secure or delivering self-service. Thanks for watching. We'll see you shortly. Live Q&A. Bye-bye.
Hello everyone and welcome to this next session of CodeRage. My name's Stephen Ball, and in this session we're going to be looking at how we can keep data secure while delivering self-service analytics to our end users. Now the session's going to cover a lot around data security and looking at some of the challenges that we have to face up to when we're building applications. And regardless of what you're using to report or to provide data out to your customers, there's going to be an awful lot of really useful kind of content at the start here. And then we're going to get into actually looking at some self-service analytics and how we can actually deliver that through Yellowfin and embed that into our existing VCL applications or FlyMonkey applications with Rad Studio. So the first part, we're going to very much look at the security landscape. We're going to touch on DORA, GDPR, NIS2, just to pick out a few of them, and just pick up some of the general trends that we need to be aware of. We'll then have a look at some of the end user behaviors that go on that we need to be kind of thinking about and thinking kind of beyond what our users are doing with the software that we're writing, but how they're kind of using that data and where there's space for us to actually be able to help them keep a little bit more secure and provide additional value to the customers that we're providing software to. And if you're an ISV, this is the type of thing that really does make a huge difference and helping keep your applications running for longer with customers, which is ultimately what the kind of the key aim really is. Then we're going to move into having a quick look at Yellowfin BI, which is an entire BI platform and covers a lot of the kind of core concepts that we're going to be looking at the start. And then we're going to get into some code and actually have a look at how simple and easy it is with the samples and the libraries that have been released to get in and embed Yellowfin into our existing applications. And either you can do it right now or later on through the session. I definitely recommend going to sandbox.yellowfinbi.com and just register on there and get a free account where you can then get access to the source code of the samples that we're going to be having a look at through the session and start playing with embedding content directly into your application today. So let's start off with having a look at some of the kind of data legislation and security challenges that we need to be aware of and how we can help in those areas. So to do this, I've just picked out a few. There's quite a few around the globe, but these are some of the more dominant ones that are in the news at the moment. We're going to start off with DORA, which is the Digital Operational Resilience Act. Now, the key thing here, DORA is about ensuring that financial sector organisations are able to keep running even if they have system failures. And you might be thinking, well, I'm not really kind of doing financial applications. Well, you've got to be careful around what gets classed as a financial sector application. And if you're supplying software to organisations that are working within the supply chain of financial sector organisations, then you still need to be thinking and being able to kind of confirm up to some of this, because you're likely to get asked over the coming months and years to be able to sign up to some of the things that they're having to sign up to supply their customers. So from a developer perspective here, I think the key thing here is we need to make sure our software is secure, reliable, auditable, which is a key point here, recoverable and predictable. So recoverable could be things like point-in-time recovery on your database. If you're not using Interbase, that's definitely a feature that's worth having a look at on the server versions. Auditable, again, being able to track what's happening and changing through your systems. So making sure that the people who've got access to things are recorded as having access and when they've had access. And And predictable is quite an interesting one here. I think there's a lot going on with AI at the moment, which isn't that predictable. You often get a different answer out, so I think that's going to be something that's going to be quite interesting to keep an eye on this in this area. But the predictable part, there's an awful lot that you want to be able to kind of ensure that is you run the same thing twice and you get the same answer. And certainly when it comes to financial stuff, that's really important. Key requirements really to think about when you're developing applications: control over data leaving your system. That is one of the most important things. You want to be able to ensure that you've got the security from source all the way through, because as soon as that data is exported, you may have done your job up to that point, and then you say, well, it's over to you to keep track of that. But if you've given them a chance to export a CSV file or an Excel file or PDF or whatever it is, and they can then just email that or put it on a disk and it gets passed around and shared, you've lost control of where that data is. So that's one of the things that is, something to kind of really consider, how you're doing that and sharing that data. And obviously, wherever you are doing that type of stuff, make sure you're logging who, what, where, when, and how they've done that. Okay, another one, GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulations. These really cover personal data. There's a UK version and there's a European version around this. GDPR really is about making sure that if something is identifiable, and it could be a gender in a zip code or a postcode, if that's the only male or female of that in that area, that's enough to identify somebody. So you've got to be very careful about what you're tracking and how it's then stored. You've got legitimate use to track it and store it. That's absolutely fine. But what you need to be thinking about is privacy by design, making sure that you've got encryption on your database at rest. Again, another really good use of Interbase there, with both to-go or server editions, being able to have that security at rest, using different encryption codes on the database and the different columns, that type of thing. Now, one of the things I would say here is that when you are allowing people to report against data, it also comes down to making sure that the right people can see the right data at the right time. And if you've got different locations, different roles, making sure that you can control the data to who sees what for which area is quite an important thing. And that's certainly something to think about as developers who are putting applications together in this area. Now, this matters. This really does matter. And the reason for that comes into the enforcement side. You don't want to be on the wrong side of your customers if you have a mess up in your software that allows people to access into data they shouldn't do. Non-compliance can result in substantial fines. We're talking 4% of a company's global annual turnover. In the UK, it could be up to £17.5 million is the fine. But if their turnover is bigger and 4% of their turnover is larger, then they can still be fined up to 4% of their turnover. So the fines here are huge for getting it wrong. NIS2 is Network Information Security Directive. This is version 2 now. This is very much around, this is a EU directive around cybersecurity. It's about ensuring that operational resilience is in play and that we have system handling of critical data analytics. Now, the thing here, and why this is really important for your customers, is that senior management is now personally liable for complying with these measures. So we're now at the point that the legislation that's out there is not only saying, hey company, you could be fined if you do something wrong, but if things are set up and not done in the right way, they're now adding in that senior management can be personally liable. And that's a pretty major thing, when some of the risk that goes along with this can be financial, it can be imprisonment. That's something that people really want to take notice to. And the thing here, as I was saying earlier, some of these really impact down the supply chain. And this is one where it really does. Supply chains need to be signing up to the directive if they want to be part of the whole supply chain. And that's suppliers, subcontractors, and software that you're producing and supplying into those teams. Needs to be signing up to that area. So, there's a lot to be thinking about here. Now, when it comes to BI, you need to be thinking about making sure that you've got access control in place, you're restricting access to reports and dashboards. You may be wanting to make sure that you have a team that approve content before it's shared out. You certainly want to have control over export permissions. If you've got conversations that need to happen around the data, it's better that happens in a BI platform like Yellowfin rather than being something that's happening outside, where it's outside of a data controlled governed area. If you're logging stuff out, and I know a lot of usage happens taking data out to put together reports for board meetings and those types of things. Again, that's an area that you need to make sure there's a lot of prep and everything going on around. So, okay, I think that's a really good kind of summary. I think looking across what's been happening with some of this legislation in the last few years, IBM did a really nice a report out recently back in 2024. They averaged out that the cost of a data breach worked out to be around about $4.8 million for an organization. And that was bundled up from regulatory action and fines, remedial action that they need to take in place in terms of the people who had their data exposed, putting them on credit reports and allowing them to be checked for a period of time, having systems reviewed, analysed and updated. There's a lot of things that kind of go into impacting an organisation. And the average cost per record per capita worked out about $165 per record that was breached. So this is a lot of money for a single record, but that's where it ends up boiling down to. And a lot of this is coming in from data that's getting outside of governed areas, CSV files, Excel, PDFs, the ad hoc reporting and stuff that happens to build the data that companies need. Is an area that is getting targeted and hit here. About 80% of the information that's being picked up and targeted for is personal identifiable information. And there's a strong focus from people who have been targeting data around HR and finance data. That's where the top target areas are. So hopefully now you've got a bit of a background in terms of what we need to be thinking of behind and beyond the user requirements that come through. And I want to kind of go through some workflows of pretty typical user use cases. So to do that, I'm going to introduce you to Sarah. Sarah is our VP of Sales. She's a fictitious VP, so just for our purpose of our story here today. Now, Sarah, during her normal day-to-day work, has duties that include organising the sales team. She's running their sales team. She is hiring and firing. She's doing a whole load of budget setting, target setting for the team. She's monitoring the cost of the sales team and the activities that they're undertaking. And she needs to be able to make decisions based on data, what's working well. She's going to be cross-referencing data from the marketing team to work out, which campaigns are linking into better leads for her and her team to work through, and what kind of information they need around that. But one of the most important things she needs to do, she needs to report to the board. She needs to make sure that the C-suite have got everything they need to know about the numbers to be able to make business strategic decisions and to help adjust the business accordingly. So she's working cross-functional. Some of the challenges she's facing up to are going to be around getting the data. She's working across multiple teams here. Finance is often working on a separate system to the marketing teams, and the sales data may be linked up to the finance system, or it may be running separately. You might have stuff in Salesforce, or you might have stuff in a system that you have built and designed and are sharing out. So multiple different data sources here to work through. one of the key things for her is she wants to be able to kind of regularly monitor what's going on. Now, to do that, she needs not necessarily real time, but near to real time insights. And even if it's that day or up to the previous day, so she can make adjusted decisions around what's going on. One of the key issues and challenges here is around data accuracy, where you've got multiple different data sources, being able to make sure that you're always pulling in the same way from those different data sources, combining it in the same way, and how that's being done is an important factor. And you need that data combined to be able to make fast decisions. Now, typically what we see for people like Sarah is that this takes a lot of time. If it's her time or staff that are working on it on her behalf, they're pulling data from different data sources, having to maybe export it into Excel, to generate it into pivot tables and to charts, and to combine that together and then copy those into PowerPoint and show that information as a unified point of truth. The challenge here is often data sources then get outdated quickly, or they might not be working on the same specific point in time, where you have data that is being managed in different locations, for example in Excel, and then being copied to PowerPoint. If you're using the template that you ran last week or last month, have you managed to make sure that all the content that's been moved across has been moved correctly? Have you forgotten or skipped a slide that you forgot about? Have we got the same point of truth? So these are all challenges that come in around this type of thing. And obviously the exporting and sharing, as soon as it's outside the database, as soon as it's outside of those governed walls, it becomes a lot harder to keep, manage and track. So this is a real challenge around some of those issues that we spoke about earlier, about knowing who's got access to the data, where they got it, being able to audit all of that as well, and make sure that you can fulfill all that compliance side of things. So what's happening today? So here's a couple of examples. We've got Chris from marketing is got an email across to Sarah saying, hey, I've added into the slide deck the latest data from marketing. It includes cost per lead. Sarah's messaging the finance team to try and get content through. And we've got Frank from human resources again, he's helping Sarah with some of the data, making sure that that's pulled together. Lots of different people spending a lot of time trying to get this data pulled together. It would be so much easier for them to have something where it is all embedded into a single platform. And also all the time and the energy that they're having to spend building these reports and putting them together and building these presentations would be just so much better if it was self-served. And that's really where Yellowfin comes in. So we're going to have a look at Yellowfin in a moment. I just want to give you a very, very quick overview first and foremost. Yellowfin is an entire BI solution. And the great thing here is, yes, you can connect up to your data sources and you can build charts and dashboards and have multiple charts linked together with different parts of the data. One of the really nice things is you can combine data that is from different systems across into the reports that you're then being able to serve out and embed into your kind of core application. So even when you've got data sources that you don't actually connect up to normally within your application, you can connect them in the BI platform and then bring those reports in. The great thing here is, we've spoken a little bit about the time and the energy that it takes to build presentations. Yellowfin itself has a solution that's very similar to PowerPoint, but has all these kind of slides pre-built, templated through, and you can set them to automatically update with the last, for example, 7 days of data, or the last month, or the last quarter, and those types of things. What that enables you to do is build it once and then just set it on a scheduler to go out to everybody. We literally, I spoke to somebody just a couple of weeks ago who was saying that since they embedded Yellowfin into their business, they've got 2 members of staff that now have an extra day a week free, because they were just building content and putting these reports together to share around with everybody. And instead of that, they've now got these reports in a presentation that's delivered, and those reports are then interactable with, so they can click on them, drill into them, view the data, ask questions of the data, get the data explained to them, a bit like having a BI analyst on demand. The assisted insights just tells them exactly what's going on with that data, which is fantastic. One of the things that's also very beneficial, and if we think back to the story of Sarah earlier, how many times do you want to get a quick answer to a question? And rather than having to have a BI analyst or a developer on side ready to develop a report for you, you just want to be able to say, hey, can I get a list of the top selling items from this region in this time period? Can you tell me more about what's going on with specific items within that data? You can do that with guided NLQ, natural language query. You can literally just ask a question and get the response back. Now, we also spoke about getting all this data, maybe looking at things and going, well, I'm not quite sure what's going on there, or I want to discuss this, or this is something that's really important for the team to have a conversation around. And that's where something like Yellowfin Stories comes in, where you can actually start embedding content into basically something similar to a blog post internally within the Yellowfin platform, where you can tag people into it. And going back to the auditing side of things, you can see who's seen it, when they've seen it, to know that they have actually viewed that data. So again, if you've got compliance side of things, people need to see things and have them ticked off of being seen. Again, stories can help you do that type of thing. But I think one of the things that really excites a lot of people is around signals. And signals is about being able to monitor data and tell Yellowfin about your data model, what key metrics fit into your data. And then when something unexpected happens, when something higher than the norm happens, to be able to get a notification about it. Say, hey, you might want to have a look at this. And we've seen real examples of where this has saved people thousands of pounds, dollars, tens of thousands even. Somebody made a mistake on a bottle of whiskey, a supplier, and they started putting it out to retail at a price that was for the 10ml bottle rather than the 100ml, for example. I can't remember the exact measurements, but you get the point. All of a sudden, the sales skyrocketed on a specific item. Now, it was a mistake. It was a human mistake, but they were able to track it and get alerts from the system before it got too far down the line. Suddenly, there's a massive spike in sales on a specific product line. Oh, what's going on here? They're able to look into it and, we found the issue here, and then go and get it resolved and sorted before it kind of became a big issue. So those types of things are really important as well. So let's have a quick look at Yellowfin at this point. Okay, so here we are at sandbox.yellowfinbi.com. I've got my username and password in here, so let's just go and log in. If you want to get an account on here, you can just use the register and fill in the form there. Now, most of the time when you log in, you'll be taken straight through to the dashboards. I have mine going to the timeline to show me where I've been and what I've been visiting. But from here, we've got a few example dashboards that have been completed. So you don't need to learn Yellowfin to start playing and being able to pull the content and show the content embedded. And there's some great demo data in there for you already to play around with. And that's why the sandbox is really good for developers. So here we've got some invoice data over time. And we can see there's a gender chart here with male and female, so I can see the percentages. But also I can hover over and get the full detail through. But I also can see popping up here is the auto analyze. So let's go ahead and auto analyze and let's explain this data. And here we are, we've now got an explanation of the data automatically generated for us, which is quite nice. We'll have a look at some of that in a moment, but I just want to show you through here. We've got some additional reports, so I can see, hey, there's different values coming through for different regions. So let's drill into Europe, and we can see here there's a lot going on with Italy. And again, I can drill further into Italy and start getting individual camps. But I can reset back up to where I wanted to by using the breadcrumbs that are put together here. I can also view this data in a tabular form and see it marked against its KPI. So these are different options of charts that are all kind of linked, embedded in there. I've also got another version of the same kind of report here. Again, allow me to drill through and actually have a pop-up of the data. And here I can actually see average ratings versus the invoice, the number of athletes, the camp name, country. So quite a lot of different stuff going on here. Color coding to indicate different data points. I can also see the donut presentation of that data. Again, these are all custom designed and built to go with each of the reports. And we also have kind of report data here on a map. So we can see different bubbles highlighting different sizes of revenue. So we see a small bubble here is 13,000. Let's go to one of the bigger ones over here. You see that's 46,000. So quite an interesting way to actually see data with different representations on the map there. I'm also going to just scroll down beyond that. Here we've got the ability to filter and work through different time points, which is quite nice, being able to adjust it visually here and drill into the data that we want. And finally here we've got the regional profit summary. So we've got, again, different types of indicators and different sections here, and I can maybe click on 2020 and let's compare that to 2025. And again, what's happening in the background here is it's using the data model to go analyze the data and then do a number of different calculations and bring us back how the times compared and how we can see the variances between the different years. We've got some explanation behind it. We've got variance by the demographics. We've got variance by the sum of profit margin. We've also got demographics by the camp region, so we can actually see which camps are doing better or worse between those different times. So again, really, really useful data explained out, and all these charts and this explanation has been done by the machine learning that's within Yellowfin. None of the data's had to go anywhere for that. It's all been done and operated locally here. Now, we've also got a campaign analysis dashboard here. This one's got a number of different filters that are applied in. Again, different types of charts showing with spark lines and again, drilling in, being able to choose the different bits. And we select one part here, it's then updating everywhere else. And we can see variations against age ranges and regions and actually see how that all kind of links together. So really, really useful. And again, these filters here, we can turn those on and off and that will impact the whole chart. So also want to have a quick look at the browse. I mentioned earlier presentations. So I'm going to go and have a look under the presentations here. And let's have a look at the monthly sales deck. Now, again, this can be set to email out to people with the information. Look at this, we've got live data in our presentations. So if you want to find out about something, all those features that we had a look at are available, and we can filter and exclude or keep or whatever we want to do here to actually drill into the data as we're looking at it and having that kind of enhanced discussion. So this is a really, really useful way to be able to kind of bring all the data to life and actually make it really informative and useful at the same time. And oh, look, I've got to drill down to media here. So let's go and drill down and have a look and see what that's doing. So I won't go through all the details here, but there's, this is a great place to come in and have a look and have a play around. There's examples of the different things within here for you to go and play with and be able to pick up through the API, so you can see how to embed content in. And the great thing about having the pre-built content is you can go play with it, and then as a developer, just call and pick up the pre-built content. And then when you're ready with the API all working, then start working on embedding your own content into Yellowfin. Okay, so I haven't had a look at the report builders or anything else like that. There's loads of webinars to go into those. But yeah, really simple drag and drop environment for that. Right, anyway, before we get into the code, I just wanted to highlight a couple of really useful architecture types that you can work with here. So we've seen the Yellowfin web client here, and you can access that directly and work with that directly. And if you are going to put this into one of your customers or into your business, it gives you web reporting straight away. That is awesome. So access remotely, you can get in and work with the stuff. We also have this really useful approach where you can embed individual elements. Now, we've just seen a bunch of different reports in dashboards. You can actually use the API and the library that's been written up to fetch and embed specific content and then embed that into your application. The other option is just to have your native client and then fetch information from it and just display the information without actually embedding the content. So this is kind of useful. You can actually pull and fetch data directly from the Yellowfin API from the reports that are being generated to then display in inside your application, or you can just embed the actual reports and have the user experience that you've just seen online actually in your application. So these three different approaches offer a great way to bring that data to life. And as I mentioned earlier, because you're pulling content directly from Yellowfin, you can actually embed in and actually use different data sources and have, for example, analytical data that you're connecting up to and driving that into your main reports and augmenting the data that you're coming from your custom application with the data from other data sources to then build the reports or the dashboards that you're going to embed. And to do that, you don't need to actually add all the drivers or anything else like that for those platforms in, or those data sources. You can just pull it in through wherever you're accessing your data from Yellowfin. Okay, so I think I've touched on a few of these bits already. It makes a very flexible architecture for reporting. It's a bridge to having distributed data, enabling your customers to report on data from different sources, all within your main application, which kind of keeps them where you want them in your core application, and reduces the time it takes to go off and do other tasks and come back. You can bring that information directly in, and reports, having them automatically filtered for a specific customer record when you're in that customer's data in your application, allows you to make timely decisions and actions, which is a fundamental part of having BI within the solution. The other thing I mentioned, everything I've just done in the Yellowfin Sandbox there has been tracked. It knows what I've done, when I've done it. It keeps hold of notes around version changes to reports. So all the access history, the things that we spoke about in the compliance earlier on, that's all happened. It's done. And the great thing, if you embed the content with the API, the same thing. You're able to embed in who's actually connecting in, what they're doing, and have all of that tracked and managed through your application as well. So let's talk about how we embed and what we can do to get this into our code. So Yellowfin has 3 different approaches for embedding content. And the good thing here is you can actually use a mix of them. So we're going to use REST to be able to communicate with the backend API. We're going to use a single sign-on with a login token just to do a simple login to the application and show you how you can enter into different locations in the application. And that's the simplest form of integration and actually provides a huge amount of functionality. There's also a SOAP integration, which allows you to do a similar type of thing, calling the API in the backend. And there's also a JavaScript API, which allows you to use it through a web page. Now, if you've got intranets or you're building things out, maybe you might build some stuff with web stencils and build an application there. There's the JavaScript API as well to allow you to integrate and do work on the client side as well. Now, a lot of the integration here works with 3 different types of tokens. So we have a request token, which is a bit like an application level token. And then the request token, once you've got that, you can then actually, if you're using single sign-on, you can use the request token that you've got to get an access token. And that access token then gives you access to the system for a specific period of time. Now, using that access token, you can get generate a request token for a specific user if it's not the user who's logging in. So if you want to do single sign-on without having to get them to log into Yellowfin, then you can actually use the request token to get the access token. And then with the access token, you can then use that for generating a one-time login token. And that login token will define where they're going in, what's going to be visible of the parts of the Yellowfin BI platform. It's highly embeddable, and we'll see some of that. But the online documentation on the developers.yellowfinbi.com site is extensive here, and most of the API has been wrapped up into an extendable library. So there's not a lot for you to do, but if there's anything else that you want to play around with, then you've got access to everything there. Now, the other thing that you can do, and I'm not going to go through this today, but you can white label the whole platform. Here's just an example of the login screen being changed. You can change the layout, move these controls around. There's an awful lot you can do. One of the things that's really clever with Yellowfin, if you are going to embed it and deploy it out with your application, you can basically put this folder of content that overrides the core content. So it could be the logo, it could be the login page, it could be your CSS for the colors and the branding within Yellowfin. But the great thing by having that folder is if you ever need to do an update to the Yellowfin system over time, which you're going to want to keep up with the latest versions and stay compliant with things, then it will just pick up the override folder as soon as it starts, and any updates you apply will never get lost against the color schemes and the logos and bits that you need. So it works in a really, really well thought out way to help white label, which is why a lot of the Yellowfin customers are just white labeling and using it. So anyway, let's jump into the code very quickly and have a look through the samples that we've got here. Now I've got 3 samples that come with the Yellowfin samples from GitHub. And the 3 samples, the first one is very much a quick and simple example that connects up to the library. You can see there's an awful lot of library files in here allowing us to connect up to all the different parts of the API. Now these files work in groups of 3. So we have the actual core functions that you can go call. And these functions take in the server details, the access token, and then provide out through a variable something from the API. And then you get the transport response, which then provides you the raw data and the success criteria. Now, because these are interfaced objects, you don't need to manage the memory of them. They'll just free away. But the code behind these is all calling the transports and then mapping it through to the objects that are defined in the interfaces, and then the classes which provide an instance of the implementation of the interface. So for example, under the interfaces here, we can see we've got a simple category model. And if we go into here, we can see we've actually got a class that implements that model. And then right at the bottom, each of these classes that are defined are mapped against the interface into a class factory, which the generics is then using to provide you the objects back. So really quite a simple model here, but it means that we've got a lot of the API wrapped up in a way that makes it very, very quick and easy to work with, including a lot of content in here for users. So for example, we've got the ability to get a user, get a metadata for filtering and searching on users, getting a specific user by its ID, by the name, by email address, updating a user, updating user's password, following requests, adding favorites, user access, so adding them to different tenants, an awful lot of different capabilities wrapped up in the library to call very, very quickly and easily from Delphi. So this example is actually quite a good one to start with. It is just a command line application, and I am just going to run that here so you can see it. But it just shows you how a number of these different classes and the methods can work. And I'm just going to run with the content that I've got currently in there. And it tells me a little bit about the tokens and what it's about to do. So it'll then run through, it'll get an access token, refresh token, and we can see the user that I've just selected to. We can see the login token that I just generated. So I can go ahead and copy that. And if I go to Chrome in here, I'll be able to log directly in with that record, which is pretty good. So yeah, this is all just kind of running through, showing you how it works, and you can read through the code here without a lot of UI stuff getting in the way. So that's quite a nice simple sample to start with. The second example that's in here is actually what we call the API Explorer. Now this one is really more for kind of debugging and working around, but what this allows you to do is in the settings here, come in and put your credentials in, and then you can use this to explore the API. So it will show you a structured version of what's coming out in the JSON. It allows you to see everything that's coming out. And you can then go ahead and play with this to go and fetch a list of users and fetch a specific user by their ID and so on. So yeah, that's a nice sample to have a play with as well. But the one that I think is probably going to interest most people is the last one that we have here, which is just the VCL example. Now this is a quick, nice and easy example, and I'm going to run it first and then show you the code behind here. This one has server settings. Again, you come in, put your credentials in here, and then just choose the update. I'm using single sign-on at the moment, so I'm just going to log in for this user and choose login. And what we'll be able to see now is Yellowfin content inside the VCL application. And I've got a number of options here to turn headers on, footers on, show the log off, show the side navigation, and so on. So you can play around with how they kind of impact and what that kind of shows in the content. In fact, let's just do that now. Let's just turn everything on, and let's just go and log in again, and that will reload. And we can see now we've got the branding, all the other navigational side of things. So you can literally give people the chance to log straight in, but maybe hide the log out option. And from in here, they can then go ahead and create and do everything they want to do. Use the natural language query to go ask a question, show profit margin by camp region. Great. And we also have an AI version now as well, where you're using NLQ. I haven't actually got it enabled here on the sandbox at the moment, where you get use AI and you can actually ask the question using freeform text, and it will then show you how it's mapped that back to the guided NLQ to give you the data out, which is pretty cool. So let's just go back and take these options off. And I'm going to go ahead and use the dashboards now. And let's just go back to the content. And we can see now we're back to the purely embedded content. Let's go to timelines and see where I've been. And I can go and reactivate and launch through content that I was at before. Let's go to the browse. Here I've got the ability to browse through, maybe go and have a look for different things. Let's go and look for a presentation. There's monthly sales deck. So the browser allows me to get in and work through the content that I've got access to within the system. We've also got the ability to link in and have a direct access entry to the administration section. So I can go control the users, add a user, do anything that I want to do within here. So we've just put a sample of them in here. There's a lot of different entry points. And when you're using the API to fetch a list of reports and show the list of reports and specifically define a report that you want to embed into a workflow, again, the same kind of mechanism, and you can embed the web browser directly into a form. You can have just that report showing very quickly and easily and have that automatically launching out. So what is behind this? Well, I've linked the library that we put together here quickly in. We're not using a lot of it actually, but the main thing here, I've created this unit here called Yellowfin Settings, which is just giving me my refresh token manager, my access token manager, and my configuration data. And you can copy and use this library. There's not a lot going on here. It's just a quick way to be able to manage these objects. We've done a little extra code, a class helper for it, just to save in and save out of an ini file just for demoing. I really wouldn't recommend using that in production, but it is just a nice, quick, easy way. We've got a frame in here, which is just setting up and showing the content for the server to connect in. And other than that, it's just in the main form here. And you'll see there's not a lot of code in here at all. Most of it is logging on and logging off, just creating the actions. So I've got log off. We initiate the login form and link that back to here. So tell it what to do once to do a login. And then we just literally say, hey, load Yellowfin, dashboards, browse, administration, and these description names are passed through, and we build the URL for the single sign-on. And to do that, we need the access login token. And here we're using a single call to tyf_token requests, get a login token, single sign-on. And that will then provide us back the token, which we can then use. And the token is linked up with some parameters. So where we had those checkboxes for the different options to turn them on and off, they're just added into the parameter list. And then off we go from there. So really, really nice and easy. And that's about it. Literally, that is it. There's not a lot of code in here to embed this in because the library is all wrapped up already for you. Okay, so next steps from here, definitely have a look at the two assets that we've got on the screen here. One takes you to a blog post about how ISVs can really add a huge revenue stream into their businesses by embedding Yellowfin in. And we actually have a whole kind of BI in a box kind of solution with our partners worldwide, where they can actually partner up with ISVs locally to provide them capability that they wouldn't normally have within their organization around analytics, and to be that kind of trusted partner that you can then sell their services through you without having to train all your staff and do everything there. And we see a huge amount of uptake in that kind of area. The other part is this embedded analytics walkthrough that will show you Yellowfin in quite a few different ways, different aspects of it, and that's a really good place to go. And if you haven't already, get to the sandbox, go and get yourself signed up on there. We'll be able to get connected with you once you've got your account on the sandbox. If you have any questions, then please feel free to connect up with me, and I'll be more than happy to set up some time with one of our solution architects to talk to you about what you're looking to try and do, and to be able to get you in contact with our local partners that we have around the world for Yellowfin. Part of the follow-on from signing up to the sandbox, once you've got the basic integration work done, we have a whole launchpad offering which allows you to get your solution ready for market. And we've got a guide that's about 50 pages that is intended for your entire organization to be able to work through and give you a project plan to actually launch out BI as a new product within your solution, within your offering. Includes help and support for marketing teams, for training, support, sales. There's a whole host of things in there, and it guides you through what you need to do to be able to really drive a new revenue stream very, very quickly through having a BI platform embedded. And with that, we've got to the end of the presentation for today. So thank you very much for joining us. I hope you found this really interesting and useful, and look forward to hearing what you get up to with Yellowfin being embedded into your VCL applications.
Oh, I cut off the last word he said. I think he probably said something like, let's give in £500. I'm going to guess that's not what you said, right?
No, it's time for Q&A. So yeah, perfect.
Oh, well, that's not interesting at all. Okay, so I'm just going to put that link there again so that people know Sandbox, Yellowfin BI. So this is Stephen Ball, because actually when I put these captions up, it takes our name away. There you go. Who's a colleague of mine. We're always in meetings together sooner or later. It's inevitable if you work for Idea, I think. But what's your official job title? Isn't it Director of Pre-Sales or something?
Pre-sales director, yeah. So
Yeah.
I oversee the pre-sales team, the technical team that help developers kind of find.
I have absolutely zero respect for authority, so I just immediately ignore people's job titles and just go, "Hello, Stephen. All right." Talking of which, putting on a British London accent like that, I thought it was funny because the problem is sometimes people look at Yellowfin and I think it's some kind of charting package. Because I had a couple of people say that, and every time you show, that donut chart, I always hear it in my head as someone doing a kind of, because I was born in Southeast London, so, "Oh, you donut," it's like, it's a donut chart for people that don't understand stuff. So I thought it was funny, but and also Dora. I can't believe you didn't have some kind of like explorer.
Yeah. Well, I've got two young girls who would probably be screaming the same thing at me. So yeah.
You have my sympathies. I'm sure you have to listen endlessly to things where you're like, why have I got this on the TV? So it's I wanted people. I'm going to put that caption up again because I want people to be able to see that URL. So I did a webinar recently about Yellowfin. We do a little bit of promotion like that. I'll probably be doing another one. I think we've got some more planned for NHS related data or something like that. But this is my take for those of you watching who are Delphi developers. And someone's saying, "Is this live from Embarcadero's offices?" Not really. No, that's not really how it works. We're all remote mostly. So in a way, yes. And in a way, no. So it just depends on how you do it. But it is live, yes. And we are from our respective workspaces. So if you're a Delphi developer, the thing that people need to understand, I believe, about Yellowfin is that, first of all, if you're a software developer and you're writing ERP software or you're writing, I don't know, business intelligence software, I don't know, sales software, management software, there's a lot of people out there doing that. It's a very common use case for Delphi. This is something that embedding is something that they can do that actually really I found it very easy to grasp, and I didn't know. I've done things for Yellowfin before, but I didn't know the product very well. And this time around, I had to learn it a bit more because I needed to talk about it with some confidence. And I think the important point is that if you're a Delphi developer watching this, you can embed Yellowfin in your app, as you showed, with virtually no code. But the other important point to get across as well is it's really easy to use. There's a little bit of a learning curve. I'm not going to lie. You can't just like put it in and go, "I know how to use it." You've got to explore it because it's extremely competent package. There's a lot going on in there. But actually embedding it and making it part of your product, you can do that without having to be an expert in business intelligence, which is what BI stands for.
Yeah.
And as you made a point that although we're joking about the name DORA and GDPR, there are some significant fines associated with not complying. And, you can let Yellowfin do the heavy lifting for all of that. And if you use an interbase, then, your data is encrypted at rest. And you and I both have something to do with interbase. But if you're a Delphi developer out there watching this, trust me, you could put this in your product. You could add a massive, great big feature list to your product list, your tick box where you go, "Hey, new version coming January 2026. Embed Yellowfin." All of a sudden, you've got a whole load of bullet points that you can add to your software. Added value. So if you've got people that you're relying on, and I will stop talking about it, people that are reliant on subscription income, you're trying to find that next new feature in order to retain your customers, because that's the subscription model that a lot of people have now. Put Yellowfin in because it's so easy. True? Am I?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we've got, just like Interbase, we've got specific discussions to have with ISVs around what we can do and put in. We had one at ISV who had about 1,500 sites with Yellowfin embedding deployed. And the big thing really for ISVs with with this. If you've not got BI in your product, you're going to be asked to link to BI. It is huge. I went to a trade show up in London last year for ITSM, the service help desk software. We had one of our customers is quite big in that area, and the number of stands that are saying, yeah, we can connect up to Power BI or we can connect up to Tableau. Yeah, that's fine. That's great, and that's going to provide something to your customers. But what you're doing is you're going, right, all this experience and knowledge, we're going to work out what they need to do and then help them build it so they've got it there. But we've then got no value in what we're offering. And, I say an ISV, I worked for an ISV for a number of years. And basically, it's a really nice business model. You go talk to all your customers, you find out all the great ideas they've got, you then productize the best ideas, and then you sell their ideas back to them as product. And that is basically what an ISV does. And and being able to capture the best knowledge, and especially around data and reporting and management, it is such a critical part of what you offer as a value. Last thing you want to be doing is helping your customers build that elsewhere and lose that value, because you're spending all that R&D time on something you can't resell.
Embedding your app. So within your ecosystem. That's what I like the idea of. This will work, by the way, this will work in Web Stencils as well. You know, if you say, oh, well, we're moving a lot of the stuff to Web Stencils or even IntraWeb or you know, TMS Web Core, it doesn't matter. There are ways of embedding it in there as well. If you're creating desktop apps, there is a ready-made solution for you.
And the great thing as well, you know, where you can really help your customers is by making your software sticky, by having this part of your software stack. Yellowfin can be installed on-prem, which is quite unique in the BI space. So all this service reliance, especially
container, is that right?
You can run it in a Docker container. You can run it on a machine by itself. You can scale it across multiple nodes. It's really scalable. So you know, that side of things, it's immensely powerful. But the ability to have it on-prem as well opens up the door to military installations or anywhere else that you need to have offline service and support for. There's something else I was going to say on it, and I completely lost the train of my thought there. But
I kept quiet. It wasn't my fault.
No. But it's the ability to have it offline just makes it super easy. And part of the whole kind of setup of it is, if you want to host it, or you want to have it online on-prem, you can set up multi-tenancy, so you can actually have a base tenant that you put all your default reports and your kind of experience and knowledge into, and then you allow your customers to clone those copies within a second tenant where you deploy it. So what you do by doing that is you allow all your stuff that you know works, you can keep safe, but you can allow them to modify it and change it and work with it. But if anything goes wrong, I'll just delete that report and reclone it and go again, and they've not messed up the core stuff. So it's, there's so much in there from an ISV perspective that works really, really well. And I remember the thing I was going to say as well now. Sorry. Making it sticky with your customers. Because Yellowfin's got the APIs in there, if you've got other solutions that are running as part of the ecosystem that you're working within, you can actually expose the Yellowfin API out to them and have the data coming directly from your systems, and then tracking it across into the other systems as well, which is fantastic. And we see a lot of customers who are actually doing that and actually putting what we call action buttons inside their reports that allow them to then click on something they've spotted in the data and then launch another system and do a single sign-in and go directly from there. So it really does open the doors up to doing some really nice tight integration with other solutions, even directly from the reports that you're pulling up where you're mashing different data sets together. So
I really like Yellowfin. I mean, before I was doing webinars because, that's my job. But the last webinar, I had to actually thoroughly learn the product and research it. The more I used it, the more I'm like, hey, this is actually a really good product. I like it. And but as I spent many years writing statistics packages and reporting packages. Used to work for the Rover Group and did some very complex, multi-billion pound, reports, and you could drill down stuff just like Yellow. It took us years. It would have been minutes with Yellowfin, so I'm kind of annoyed. But if you are writing human resources software, if you're writing factory management software, if you're writing, HR software, if you're writing medical center, where you've got data like an NHS, we've got an email that's gone out for Yellowfin to do with the NHS. There's an application for this. But if you're watching this and you're a developer of independent solutions, add this in. You can make money and it's easy. And I tell you, the feature I really like about this, which you did mention briefly in the video, is the stories. The ability to go, I'll put the data together, and they've got some webinars that mention this. I know we're a little bit late, but you can say, oh, add this data to a story, and it literally generates with intelligence. You can add in optional AI and things like that. Adds in a ready to go, almost blog post. It's more like a report or a white paper. You can manipulate that to be what you want. There it comes out, and your customers will go, I could tell you, as a guy who spent many years, 40 years as a developer, selling my services to other people and encouraging them, this is what I can do for you. That was my secret, was saying to a person, I will make you rich. I will make you successful. I will make you be able to sell more software. That was my job as a vendor. Well, here's a product that can help you do that to your end users as well, with virtually no effort on your behalf. And I'm not just saying that, but it's true. So it is what it is. All right. Is there anything else you need to bring up, Stephen? Because
no, I just say we've got a global partner network here with Yellowfin. I know for a number of small ISVs who are looking to add something like this in, it can look quite daunting. There's a whole different skill set around BI, but we've got partners all the way around the world to help support people with that. And a big part of that is just be able to provide training for customers and help them understand their business and talk to them about what they're doing and build that in. And those, and that kind of capability in a box type of thing is something that is a kind of a new package that's being pushed out through the Yellowfin Partner Network. But it's amazing. It really is quite a unique business relationship to be able to take in, that opens up another revenue stream very, very quickly. Which
that was the thing that struck me, and I'm like, I like this. I know what to do if I ever don't make it as the DevRel guy. Hopefully that won't happen, but you never know. I do say a lot of stuff, and one of them is going to come back and bite me one day. So, but I think like I say, I'm a fan, and I know my job is to talk about idea of products and things like that as well. But I actually don't talk about the ones I'm not very happy with. That doesn't mean to say if I haven't mentioned an idea or product, I hate it. It just means that maybe they didn't ask me, or maybe I didn't get around to it, or maybe I didn't like it. But Yellowfin, I absolutely think it's a great product, and I think that as an ISV, as an independent software developer, it's dead easy to put in your product.
Well, signing up on the sandbox gives you the email straight away with access. You'll be in there within minutes. So I can see there's already a couple of people who signed up during the webinar. So
there you go. So I'll get brownie points from the boss. Is that right? Excellent. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Stephen. And a couple of people asking about your basketball game and saying someone said, how did the basketball game go? We did briefly touch on it, but
the game went really well. It was really close at halftime, only 2 points, but then the fourth quarter, the home team really kind of ran away with it. I think the other teams just kind of ran out of pace a little bit, and their big guy got in foul trouble. So, but it was good.
Sport, it's a very unprogrammer-like thing to do, but I suppose someone's got to be the one that does it. So. All right, well, thanks a lot, and I'll see you again another time. Thank you. Cheers.
Right, take care. Happy coding, everyone.